Good evening and welcome to Athens City Council. It's September 5th, Tuesday at 7:01 p.m. We are in regular session tonight. And our first item of business will be to establish a quorum. Members of council are here with the exception of one of our council members, Councilmember Reisner. We next have the disposition of minutes. The first one will be for the regular session held on August 21st and the special session held August 28th. If we could have a motion for approval of these minutes.
So moved. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, the minutes have been approved. We'll now have communications. I do have one item to report that we have received notice from the Ohio Division of Liquor Control. And this is for the Corner on Union LLC. It is a Trex license for D5 liquor permit, which I believe is open and sealed containers allowed on premises until 2 in the morning. And this is a B Trex license that has been granted by the mayor, and council would have, if they wanted to make a response, until September 18th, 2017. Okay. All right. And do we have communications from other council members? All quiet. We'll move on to reports and communications from other elected officials. Law Director Eliason. Okay. Mayor Patterson.
I just have one. JPAC appointments don't need to be confirmed by council, but I do want to make mention that I did fill one of the vacancies recently with Hashim Pashtun, who's a PhD candidate in environmental engineering at Ohio University at the Russ College of Engineering. He was also the Chief Justice for Ohio University's Student Senate, but just wanted to have that on the record that I have appointed him and he accepted that position.
Okay, thank you. And then our treasurer is with us tonight, and she has submitted a report to council members. Welcome, welcome. Good to see you.
I have my second quarter report. I just want to let you know that our total interest earned through the end of June is $137,556.38. Well on our way to meeting our goal. However, some of that is interest earned on the debt proceeds that were invested. That's earmarked for the city pool construction. Okay. And of course, we are paying out some interest on that as well. So I don't know if anyone has any questions for me.
Could you repeat that amount?
There's a copy right on the other side of your laptop, but it's
thank you.
It's $137,556.
Any questions or comments? Is there anything unusual or outstanding, or things that you're seeing that are a different trend for us this year?
Other than what I just mentioned, no. Okay. We seem to be doing well.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
All right. We'll move right on to ordinances. The first one is section is ordinances for third reading. The first ordinance is 9317, an ordinance authorizing the Service Safety Director to enter into an LPA state project agreement with the Ohio Department of Transportation for guardrail replacement upgrade on State Route 50 and declaring an emergency. This is introduced by Councilmember Pappy.
Thank you, President Nisley. I move to adopt 9317.
Second.
This is our third reading for this ordinance, and basically we are, ODOT is paying 100% of the replacement of guardrails in that section of 3350.
Okay. We have a motion and second. Are there any other comments or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carries and the ordinance is approved. Ordinance 9417 is an ordinance authorizing disposal of an Athens transit bus no longer needed for a municipal purpose. And this is introduced by Councilmember Pappy.
Thank you. I move to adopt 9417.
Second.
Basically, this is a standard vehicle that is no longer a good use for our city, but may be put up for bid.
Okay. We have a motion and second for approval of 9417. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion carries and the ordinance is approved. Ordinance 9617 is an ordinance suspending the enforcement of Athens City Code, Section 13.04.10, unnecessary noise, for scheduled bandstand performances hosted by the Clean and Safe Halloween Committee on October 28th and 29th, 2017, which is Halloween weekend. Introduced by Councilmember Pappy.
Thank you. I move to adopt 9617.
Second.
This is one of our standard ordinances that we do, of course, have to suspend enforcement of the noise ordinance for the block party.
Okay, we have a motion and second for approval of 9617. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries and the ordinance is approved. Ordinance 9717 is an ordinance suspending the enforcement of Athens City Code Chapter 11.04, vending, peddling, and soliciting, to allow vending in the designated area on October 28th and 29th, 2017, being Halloween weekend. Introduced by Councilmember Pappy.
Thank you. I move to adopt 9717.
Second.
And basically, this is enforcement of our vending and peddling, allowing this to happen outside of the normal area.
Okay. We have a motion and second. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion carries and the ordinance is approved. Ordinance 9817 is an ordinance suspending the enforcement of Athens City Code Section 7.05.26C, regulation of city parking garage rates on October 28th and 29th, 2017, Halloween weekend. This is introduced by Councilmember Pappy.
Thank you. I move to adopt 9817. And as you recall in our conversation, this is also, I guess, better regulating what we charge for the parking for that weekend in the garage.
Okay. So we have a motion and second for approval of 9817. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion carries and the ordinance is approved. Ordinance 117 is an ordinance amending Athens City Code Title 7, Traffic Code, Chapter 7.01, General Provisions, Chapter 7.05, Parking Regulations, and Chapter 7.09, Penalties. This is introduced by Councilmember Fall.
Thank you. I move that we adopt 117.
Second.
These are definitional changes, updating the parking code to include new technology that we have put out, especially on Union Street with pay stations.
We have a motion and second for approval of 117. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion carries and the ordinance is approved. Ordinance 10117 is an ordinance amending Title III, Administrative Provisions of the Athens City Code, Chapter 3.07, Administrative Departments, Boards, and Commissions, Section 3.07.70, the Athens City Commission on Disabilities, introduced by Councilmember Fall.
Thank you. I move that we adopt 10117.
Second.
Basically, this is codifying the number of people who would be put on the board on the Commission of Disabilities.
Okay. We have a motion and second for approval of 10117. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion carries and the ordinance is approved. Ordinance 10217 is an ordinance authorizing the extension of city water service and installation of a water tap beyond the corporate limits on Peach Ridge Road, introduced by Councilmember Butler.
Thank you, President Isley. I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance 102-17.
Second.
Thank you. Quite simply, we're hoping to offer services to a private resident No existing water lines exist or are available through a rural water provider at the moment. The line has been tested at 45 PSI, which is well over our minimum of 20 PSI. Again, this is for a home, single home, and the ordinance also acknowledges that the rate charged for said services shall be the city rate plus 20%. Thank you.
Okay. We have a motion and second for approval of ordinance 10217. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion carries and the ordinance is approved. Ordinance 10417 is an ordinance authorizing the mayor to hire a director of arts, parks, and recreation at a pay rate of 50% through the assigned pay grade. This is introduced by the Finance and Personnel Committee.
Thank you. I'll cover it. I move that we adopt 10417.
Second.
This was presented by the mayor a couple weeks ago. He has the ability to not approach council for a 25% pay rate, 25% up through the assigned pay grade. This is for an extra 25% to put halfway through the pay grade for the new position.
So we have a motion and second for approval of 10417. And do we have any other comments or questions? Councilmember Pappy.
I do. I still am not in support of this. I believe that bringing in a new person at the 50% rate who we have no road test on or know, and is from outside the area, I think we need to stick within what our rules, if 25% was what was offered, I think we need to stick with that. I'm just not comfortable with voting yes on this.
Okay. Any other comments? Councilmember McGee.
Thank you, President Nicely. It's a delight to be in agreement with another council member for once. I too am, if not appalled, at least disturbed at the thought that we are taking a pay raise or pay scale, which is, I think, a very generous pay scale, and increasing that for this particular position. We live in a city where many of our citizens are living on minimum wage or in that area, and to give such an increase to someone who has basically not earned it by not working here at this point in time because you like that particular person's credentials, when we have other very good applicants as well, is to me like going out and buying a Porsche instead of a Chevy. So I would tell council that I'm disturbed by this kind of situation, and I would certainly say that the citizens of Athens do not expect that kind of salary to be paid to department heads, and I don't think it should be. Thank you.
Yes.
I'll go after Pete.
Okay. And then we'll do the two council members and then Mayor. Yes. Councilmember Katsas.
Thank you. And I'll cut straight to the chase also. I am also not in support of this, not because of the amount. I mean, we're talking $6,000, so in the scheme of our budget, that's nothing. But what I think about are all of the other employees that are employed by the City of Athens who may have been told that we couldn't change the pay rate due to that structure. So deviating for one person, for me, being someone who does hire and thinks about these types of situations, I wonder what kind of HR issues we can have from it. Additionally, if this person is coming in, who I truly believe administration is trying to select the right person, but if it comes down to pay, Athens is not the place to come to get rich. So it's there are trade-offs to come here. They're good trade-offs. This is a great community to be in, but sometimes you don't end up making exactly what you hope to in this area. So thank you.
We'll go with Councilmember Butler, then Smedley, then Fall. Councilmember Butler.
Thank you. I've had many thoughts and feelings regarding this and have had some time to sleep on it. I'm a very frugal person. I typically will drive my cars till the tires run off the road or it breaks down. So being frugal, I have some thoughts regarding this. And also being frugal, I would love to have seen us hire internally, because I see very many merits within that. The challenge for me here is I have to trust as well, and trust is not easy as well. And I have to trust the executive branch that they're making the right decision and that they're hiring the best person for the job. I wasn't part of the interviewing process, so I don't know. I can acknowledge that my understanding is that this person would be making less than their predecessor. So it is within our budget and within our means. Again, it is a challenging decision, and I'm likely to support the hire, but I have wrestled with the thought process. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Smedley.
Thank you, President Isley. I'd like to second Councilmember Butler's comments. My main concerns were that we were bringing on someone who we felt was capable of doing the job, and that's what we pay you to do as mayor, to do those interviews. We were not in the room with you, and so we trust your judgment on that. And then my other concern was affordability, and we discussed that at last meeting, and the responses that I got were satisfactory to me that this was indeed affordable, and so that's why I would support this at this point.
Councilmember Fall.
Thank you. I want to make a couple of comments. One, the person has gone through the hiring process as well as other people that were in the city. And there is, the administration does have the right and the responsibility to pick the people that are going to be in the executive branch and administration. I am concerned when I hear people say, oh, you can come to Athens, but don't expect, to be paid well. That's not, we want people to come to Athens because they love it, but not because they love it and then they're going to be paid less. That's, to me, sounding like a downward slope, a race to the bottom of people who want to come here. The other thing is when you looked at the pay scales across the state, the pay scale for this particular thing, in my mind, was somewhat lower than when you look at other administrative department heads. I think that's because planning, the recreation and arts, parks, and recreation departments have always been the stepchild of budgeting. You pay your fire chief well, and you pay your other administrator, your street director, X, Y, and Z, sewer director. But when it came to the rec department, it's like, oh, well, that's kind of what they get. And their administration has a lot of responsibility and a lot of jobs, and it requires to be compensated equally well as anybody else in the city. So, my 2 cents.
Mayor Patterson.
Thank you. Let me just start by saying that, although I find Member McGee's analogy somewhat humorous, I typically don't think of people as cars, let alone Porsches and Chevys or anything else for that matter. The other thing I want to mention really quick is I know that most of you behind the dais right now was engaged in the Clemens and Nelson compensation plan. 50% of the way into the pay grade, what that really equals is that it translates to the median income for peer municipalities across the state. That was found to be the middle ground of the salary. So I would challenge most of you in that you are probably, for those of you who are employed and hold jobs, that you were probably too somewhere in that median income range for your peers. As this is the case with this particular position. The $71,000 is the median. It's not the extreme on one end, or it's not on the low end on the other end. I mean, you already know what the highs and the lows are. The lower end being $59,900 and something, the upper end being $84,000, $83,000. This is the middle point. So again, the whole process of going through the comprehensive, or the compensation planning with Clemens and Nelson was to understand for analogous municipalities across the state, what do things look like when you're sitting there and looking to see what the pay scale, what is the average pay for a prosecutor? What is the average pay for a solid waste inspector? What is the middle ground? And all that, we all went through that exercise together. So what's being asked is, to come into that median range for an individual who is currently being paid much more than that. So this is not a salary bump for this individual. It's a significant decrease, but that's a whole different story altogether. I just want council I wanted to make sure informationally that you understand what 50% into the pay grade, what that really represents.
Okay. So we have a motion and second for approval of this ordinance 10417. And having heard the comments, I think what we should do is a hand vote so that we see whether it's will pass or not. So all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Or raise your hand, please. Excuse me. So you have 3. Okay. And then against? We have 3. And I was thinking this might be the way it came down. So I will offer a little bit of comment. I too look at the checks and balances that we have within our city. The mayor is the executive office and deals with a lot of the administration, and that is his responsibility, the HR department. He has, in this particular instance, worked with the city auditor, one of our other branches, to assure that there would be money available, that this isn't going to jeopardize other expenses within Arts, Parks, and Recreation. I think some of the challenge may be in the long term, where the money's, to assure that we have money for all of our services and all of our personnel. But likewise, I think we also have challenging times with Arts, Parks, and Recreation, having passed a levy, embarking on the demolition of our old pool and the pending construction of a new one. And in addition to that, a very energetic kind of plan for revitalizing some of our existing Arts, Parks, and Recreation facilities, as well as establishing hopefully new trails in some of our new park or some of our new green spaces. And so for that reason, I will vote in favor of 10417. So the motion carries and the ordinance is approved. The ordinance for second reading now is 9517. This is an ordinance banning parking and closing that portion of Court Street from Mulberry to Carpenter on October 28th and 29th, 2017, in anticipation of a large number of people converging on downtown Athens on Halloween weekend. This is introduced by Councilmember Pappy. And ordinance is now for first reading. Ordinance 10517 is an ordinance amending the 2017 appropriation ordinance. And this is introduced by probably Councilmember Fall on behalf of Councilmember Reisner tonight.
Please. I move that we amend 10517.
Do we have a second, please?
Second.
It was told to us that instead of $4,000 that needs to be moved into the balance is $4,500, so an increase of $500.
Okay. So we have a motion and second to amend this ordinance, changing the amount to, $4,500.
Yep.
Okay, $4,500. Okay. All those in favor of amending ordinance 10517 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ordinance has been amended and read for the first time. Again. Ordinance 10617 is an ordinance authorizing the Service Safety Director to enter into an LPA state project agreement with the Ohio Department of Transportation for sign replacement on U.S. Routes 33 and 50 and State Route 682 and declaring an emergency. This is introduced by Councilmember Pappy.
Thank you. We discussed this in committee last week, and within the city limits, ODOT is wanting to replace signs. They've come up with what sounds like a safer model in terms of the way they want to present the signs on the highways. And again, they are bearing 100% of the cost, but they do need, as usual in the LPA agreement, something from council and the city that agrees with this plan.
Okay, thank you. We now have a resolution for third reading. This is 817, a resolution accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county auditor. This is introduced by, well, it will be, yes, introduced by Councilmember Fall tonight on behalf of Councilmember Reisner.
I move that we adopt Resolution 817. We've talked about this. This is pretty much housekeeping that we have to do at this point in the year to certify our necessary tax monies that are going through the county auditor.
Okay. We have a motion and second for approval of this resolution. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. And the resolution is passed. Under announcements and other business, I do believe we have an item of business tonight for an appointment to the Board of Zoning Appeals. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And this is Mr. John Gutekunst, who owns Avalanche Pizza in Athens, Ohio. A brief bio has been provided to council members. So he's quite an accomplished business person in our community, also a speaker and author, and is willing to serve on one of, I think, the toughest jobs in the city. I know Councilmember Pappy has served on this before, and so we appreciate the willingness to do this. So I would entertain a motion for approval or appointment of Mr. Gutekunst.
So moved.
You have a second? Second, okay. And this is to the appointment to the Board of Zoning Appeals. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Nay? Well, welcome to the Board of Zoning Appeals. And thank you
President
in
Eisen.
advance. Yes.
May I also offer thanks for Mr. Kornansky's time on the zoning board. That's my understanding, is this would be the replacement, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
So she's been there how many years?
She was there when I was there, and I've been here 6, and I was there 4.
She served a long time.
She served a really long time.
So, yeah,
thank you,
sincere
Mr. Kornansky.
thanks. Thank you for mentioning that, Councilmember Butler. Yes, she's done a lot of work with that. And do we have any other, we will be having committee meeting next week, and I know that we do have one item that may be, well, I'm not sure. We have planning and development.
Transportation.
Transportation, we'll likely have finance and personnel. Do we need service safety?
Perhaps.
Councilmember Butler? Okay. But you'll let us know by, actually, our deadline is Wednesday, tomorrow, for whether or not that committee needs to meet, and then other agenda items for that. So if city administration has any items they want to add onto the agenda, that would be helpful by tomorrow. And Mayor Patterson, you have an announcement.
Just two announcements real quick. Again, to remind everyone that on September 14th at 4:30 in the afternoon in front of Margaret Walter Hall, which is OU's Centennial Park, the traveling Vietnam Memorial Wall will be up and will be open to the public. There will be kind of an opening ceremony taking place at that time, but the wall will be here in Athens from the 14th through the 17th. Again, Centennial Park, right off of Richland Avenue and South Green Drive. For anyone who wants to visit that wall, it's fitting that it's sitting in one of Maya Lin's other installation pieces, which is Punch Card, affectionately known as Punch Card Park.
Did you say 10:30?
No, 4:30.
4:30.
4:30
I'm sorry.
in the afternoon.
Okay.
Thank you.
And President Nisley, I'm completely blanking on the other item that I wanted to bring up tonight, which is unfortunate.
That's all right.
It must have been, oh, I know what it was.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I will, tomorrow through Friday, I will be attending the National League of Cities Crime Prevention and Public Safety Advocacy Council, and working on possible legislation to lobby on Capitol Hill when it comes to community policing and other items that are on our agenda to discuss under the National League of Cities.
Good. Okay. All right, and now we have an opportunity for citizens to speak on legislative items and city services that were not covered on the agenda. So if we have somebody who's anybody wanting to speak tonight, you do have 3 minutes, and you can come up to the podium. We ask you to do 2 things. You introduce yourself, and I'll set the timer and the lights appear up here, and then you also sign in so that we have the correct spelling of your name for the record. Mr. Hayden, I know you wanted to come up, and looks like we have somebody else afterwards, too.
Most of the city council people received what I've written up from President Nisley.
Some of them have. Finance committee members have.
Okay, well, here's
A few other copies.
pass out. I don't
Here's
know if
something.
it's
I
on
don't know if you got this or
media,
not.
but,
Yeah.
Charlie passing this down so they all sign and put A-I.
I guess I can sign in later. My name is Warren Hayden. I live at 97 2nd Street. Just less than 2 hours ago, I was told that I may be tilting at windmills about this. I call this a crazy idea because I'm not sure where I came up with it. But often on an afternoon, I go to a fast food restaurant, one of the many we have a cup of coffee and read. It's usually quiet around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Lunch is over and dinner crowd hasn't started. And I get to listen to the people who work there, who are talking amongst themselves. A few weeks ago, it dawned on me that these folks pay the Athens city tax of 1.85%. And then I remembered that the Medicare tax is only 1.45%. And I'm going, holy Hannah, Medicare is going to provide quite a benefit down the road to most of these people. And many of these people make wages that most of us haven't experienced since we were very young. Minimum wage or not much above it. I just started thinking about it. And I've been thinking about the way low-income people in Athens, many who don't live in Athens, end up paying tax. And I said, what if there was something with the Athens city tax, sort of like the Earned Income Tax Credit, where they could get a refund on taxes paid up to the poverty level for whatever family size they have. This would be at the end of the year. And as I say on here, I just thought a little bit about how that could be done. Is the city obviously collects information on how much tax is collected on each person. Does anybody know how many people pay Athens city tax? Discrete people? That'd be interesting to know. I thought if, with a person's W-2 or W-2s and their income tax, one would show how much city tax was paid, and the other would show what their income was in total and how many people in the household.
And we'll ask you to conclude in just a second here, because I know that buzzer is going to go off. And
I thought that it could be capped at 200% of poverty. But President Nisley called me less than 2 hours ago and said, this was a non-starter, and I need to get that reference that you told me over the phone. I was hoping that Kathy was here, but I don't see her quickly. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have somebody else? Tell you what, you could sign after she speaks. Okay.
Hello, my name is Jessica Thomas.
Oh, sorry.
That was a really fast 3 minutes.
Yes, my time wasn't up.
Reset. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to alarm you. It's I lose track of time is what happens, so they say. I've got to keep order here.
Easy to do. My name is Jessica Thomas. I just came tonight pretty active in just following the school goings on, the city going on. And lately, there's been a lot of talk about the proposed land donation from Ohio University to the school district and the development of that land and what that's going to mean. Just with the people that I know, we've been talking. I know it's gone through my head driving through that area a lot as to what role the city will have in that. Are they actively part of the development or the discussion and assessment of that property? I just know driving through there's a lot of infrastructure that's going to be affected, that's going to impact a lot of business, that's going to impact a lot of traffic, running all the utilities up there. I'm just curious where the city is involvement on that, and will that fall into city territory for paying for some of that, or that is all on the district, or how that's going to happen that way?
Okay. All right. And thank you for coming tonight to make those comments. We don't typically have a discussion here, but if it would move forward and raise to the level of awareness that a committee asks for further discussion on that, we'd certainly take your additional comments. So thank you for taking the time tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have anybody else who wants to speak for 3 minutes? Okay. Would take a motion to adjourn.
I move.
Do we have a second? Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. I'll assume none opposed. We adjourn at 7:39, and we'll see you next Monday night. Thank you very much.